thing of it.
Okay, we might as well get started. We're a minute late now, so
You're sitting up in there. You're sitting up. Yeah, you get to look there.
You want your attention.
yeah, we want to start the meeting. We don't need a bunch of side discussions at this point. Okay, first item agenda is always is the roll call, so we have a quorum. So, Rhonda,
Okay, Mr. Hall,
here.
Mr. Shilo, Mr. Bakley,
Here.
Mr. Dixon,
Here.
Mr. Artizone,
Here.
Mr. Carter,
Here.
Mr. Holsinger,
Here.
Mr. Postles, Ms. Smith.
We have a quorum. All right, moving right ahead. We have approval for the minutes of two meetings. One's for June 26th and one for July 25th. And I guess because of vacations and everything else, that's the reason we have two rather than one. So are there any questions? These minutes were sent to you by email. Does anybody have any questions concerning or corrections for the approval for the June 27th or July 25th meeting? If there are none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Public comment, right?
Public, you're public?
You're not.
That's.
No.
Oh, that's.
Never mind.
Over here.
Never mind.
She's over here.
I have public comments. Yeah, I just didn't recognize. I can't see with these glasses on. I can read paper, but I can't see the distance. Okay, so if there are no public comment, we'll move ahead. First thing we have is the development applications. We have item 4 of the agenda is one that requires a review. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So the only level review today for you all is this Greystone office building and land development in Antis Township. This proposal is for the addition of a 1,900 square foot addition to the current building located on tax parcel 323B177, which is a 0.0767 acre lot. The addition would be expanding, oopsies, whoa, so sorry, I haven't used the mouse before on this. So it would be expanding near Hawthorne, which would be down this way, and I did better this time, I promise, with the presentation. The addition would be expanding on the North Hawthorne Drive side of the building with the goal of the building becoming Jeff Long Construction Offices. The proposed layout will provide the required number of parking spaces and result in minimal increase in impervious coverage. The proposal also requests 35-foot setbacks on the corner lot instead of 50-foot setbacks. So I'm going to, will it allow me to go? I don't know how to do this with the mouse, I'm so sorry. There we go. So this is the parcel, this is a bird's eye view, but I did get a nice screenshot of the map for you with high detail. And I will continue to read. The parcel will continue to have frontage along a public roadway. Once Jeff Long construction offices are complete, we do predict additional vehicle trips will be generated due to this plan. However, we do not anticipate any significant negative impacts on the local transportation system as a result of this proposal. Environmentally, our review of natural features at this location revealed prime agricultural soil. However, there are no immediate environmental concerns with this subdivision. The site is not located within the 100-year floodplain, nor does it contain any wetlands or natural heritage inventory areas. This site is located within the Little Juniata River watershed. However, minimal impacts on this watershed are expected as a result of this proposal. The request for 35-foot setbacks in lieu of 50-foot setbacks is reasonable due to location, scope of the proposal, and industry standards. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this subdivision?
Is there an existing building there now?
Yes, so
If
if you go back here, I'm sorry. So this is the additional building, okay? And this is an addition. So here we have the addition, the current building, This is, this would be Pleasant Valley Boulevard, and this is Hawthorne. They are proposing a building on this side of the existing building. So this would be the addition. And then if I understand correctly, they are working on some of the pavement here and adding in additional parking areas. And these would be the proposed 35-foot, I believe, setbacks.
His other buildings that's on the south side, I guess. So his building would be to the left.
Yes, the building would
left.
be, the building
left
is
there.
going to be right here, kind of where these are, and here's Hawthorne. Oh, thank you, sorry, didn't. Yeah, so the building would be, the addition would kind of go where these cars are, right along Hawthorne, and then they are adding in additional parking here. And then the
Okay.
easements they're referring to would be here if we go back.
I guess to me for some reason that's the way I'm looking at it. It looks like it's flipped 180 degrees. That picture, it should be
I mean, I guess in Google Maps next time I can make it, like I couldn't, or Google Earth, I can adjust it so it's exactly perfect.
Well, to me, I forget who's in there now. Path or somebody's in there with an office building in there now.
I'm not sure.
There's something in there.
Yes, this is an existing building. I don't know who is in there currently. That wasn't really submitted or explained. But
Yeah.
essentially they're just adding on an addition here.
Yeah, okay. I know where you're at. It just appears to me that if I was looking at it, I would say that the building he's adding would be towards the Altoona side of his existing buildings, not to the north. Unless it's another building, because
So this is kind of, hold on, I actually brought the plan with me just in case. Go ahead, Steph.
Is that the Jeff Long, like just their office building? That's all. Yeah. So they're just adding on to. that.
Yeah, I
there's an
believe,
existing office building there that somebody else has.
I think that Jeff Long
It's-
owns it.
Yeah, I think
And
it's,
he has-
it's like
Yeah, because we had seen it come in as a purchase just recently.
I think it's the Jeff Long construction, like actual office building.
But
That's what
they
I'm
just need
saying.
to expand it further. It wasn't explained well in the,
Okay, I'm just confused to because I thought they'd taken over the building that was right beside them, and there was somebody in there, and I thought he had bought that, and that was,
I know what you're referring to. I do not think this is that.
okay.
They're not the same parcel. This is
Okay.
his actual like office.
This is the other side, this is the north side, and that's a different building than what I'm thinking.
okay. I do have another map here that kind of
That's
shows
all
where
right.
it's
Yeah,
needed.
I'm probably confused.
Okay,
I do that a lot, I am a lot.
No, he bought another building and added on to it. There was an existing office building there, and he added he added an addition onto that building. This is not that. This is his actual office
Yeah,
for Jeff Long Construction.
okay, all right.
oh my gosh, why?
All right, it's on the other side of
It's next to the Bridgestone building.
yeah, it's on the north side.
The address I believe is 1917 East Pleasant Valley Boulevard if you need it at all. I don't know why, it just stuck in my brain.
Okay, all right, I'm just.
Does anybody have any feedback or we?
If there are no further questions or any additions, I will ask for a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations for item 4 of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
If there are no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving ahead, the next item is item 5. These are the ones that got sent to all the board members by email. And as such, they did not rise to the level of needing a full review. So these are, if there are any questions, and there are lot splits, things like private owners, things of that nature, additions. So if there are any questions about any of these items, now's the time to ask about them. If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations for item 5 of the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, moving ahead. Okay, now we're back down to actions by governing bodies. These are things that get covered by basically by the local share money, and it's things like as this one is zoning amendment changes or changes to their planning, and they're submitted by municipalities and board or by commission members, member municipalities, and so this is one that needs to be reviewed.
So this is Newry here, if you're not familiar. I should have, in hindsight, put maybe some street addresses here. And this Porter Alley is here. And then 2 months ago, we had discussed McClanahan's and a property that needed to be rezoned. This ordinance will cover that. If you look on the second page of the ordinance, further being at the top, that is where that is referenced. And that parcel is right there. But this review, or this ordinance update or amendment does seem pretty standard from my discussions with Dave. Does anyone have?
Is that a historic house on the corner, or that lot that they're rezoning?
That's a great question. I can look into, ooh, I'm so sorry. You're talking here, like, on Newry, near kind of, go ahead.
I missed the last meeting, so the lot, she went to the lot that they're rezoning?
Oh, so McClanahan's had submitted a proposal here for it to be rezoned into industrial so that they could expand their offices. And I apologize, I didn't bring that with me. I probably should have. But essentially, we did not at that time update the ordinance, so they gave us a draft of this ordinance. Or I'm sorry, we did not update the zoning with that vote in June. So they sent this over, this draft.
Yeah, they
Okay, I see it now, it's okay.
I can look on Newry though to see if there are historic
Maybe
houses. I
that's
think
a,
that's important.
Aerial view
No?
of it, so it's not what I thought it was.
They had
Okay.
gotten themselves, their engineer had gotten, let's say, I don't want to say confused, but he had submitted things basically out of order.
So basically that, they're
Yeah.
gonna make that
Yeah.
whole corner L
So this
shaped
little,
lot.
yep,
They had proposed to put in some office space
yes.
and some
Yeah.
training facilities
I think they've been planning that.
and some
for
parking.
years.
Yeah, and they are submitting multiple plans. We've already seen one. They have let us know that there will be 2 more. I do not know when that will be. But this ordinance would correct it so they could do those office spaces.
Yeah, they had everything out of order.
Okay.
They submitted things out of order, you know, we were sitting here scratching our heads saying, well, we don't have it all, so now they're now trying to get it into proper order. Okay, so this is something to do that. So it's borough's request for zoning so that planning has to move forward with their.
If anything, one of those certain needs a part-time
Are any other questions concerning this? If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to
I moved.
approve the staff recommendations.
Second.
Second.
Who
All those in favor?
moved it? Pat
All right.
and Tom. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Item 7 is again similar to the earlier item, where these are items submitted by local municipalities for letters of support, for permits, applications, things, reviews, extensions, things of that nature, that don't rise to the level of needing a full review by the board. And only require staff action that, so if you need a letter, if you're applying for a grant, you need a letter of support, this is where this would, in your municipality, this is where this would show up. So, these were sent again by email to the board members for your review and comment. So if there are any questions concerning any of the items on item 7 of the agenda, now's your time to ask them. Okay, if there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the staff actions for the reviews and letters of support for item 7 of the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, moving right ahead.
I will pause this.
I guess Dave's taking over because he moved up there, he got stormwater management.
Yep.
If we can see it.
Just mad dash. There you go.
I intended to mail this to you. This file has been turning me gray. I think literally my wife noticed when she cut my hair over the weekend, I started to turn gray. As recently as Monday, every paragraph on this was on one line and ignored the margins, so if I were to print it out, I need a piece of paper as wide as this table is long. So the solution seems to have been retype the whole thing. So we have a phase 1 countywide stormwater management plan. A phase 1 is basically a grant application on steroids. So basically the review of this is in a few parts. So basically the purpose of the plan and some background on the county that we give them so they know what we're dealing with, what they're dealing with. Some of the history of Act 167 in the county. We do have a couple watersheds, namely the Beaver Dam Branch and Bob's Creek, which extends a little bit up into the southwestern corner of the county. Both have had watershed planning done. The Little Juniata had a phase 1 done just like this is, but never progressed into phase 2. The Frankstown branch, which covers about 2/3 of the land area of the county, has never been looked at. So what they propose now, instead of doing it by watershed, by watershed, by watershed, is to do a full county plan and let the counties take care of everything that's within their jurisdictions. We do have little slivers of creeks that come in here and there. Believe it or not, the West Branch of the Susquehanna touches us on our northwestern boundary by just a matter of maybe 2 or 3 square miles worth of watershed area, if that. It's a very small area, so that's one. Down in the southeastern corner of the county, Yellow Creek comes up, and historically how those would have been handled would have been the county that had the most land area in the watershed would take care of the study. Hence Bob's Creek was actually done by Bedford County, and we at the time joined in on them and helped out. Beaver Dam Branch was easy, it's fully contained. Something like say the Little J, we were taking the lead on because we had the majority of the watershed, and Huntington would have given us whatever support was needed. That coordination, the dividing up between the jurisdictions, didn't work out well. So now we're doing a county-wide plan. So you can see here what's in the plan in terms of an introduction, in terms of a general county description. They really like us to focus on the land use, how we're developing, and what the natural habitat is in terms of water. So those, it's the nexus between development and water that we're really looking at here. So you can see when we get to the natural environment, we have quite a few pages listed there. We look at soils, hydric soils, slopes, the things that are going to impact stormwater getting into the ground versus running off. We look at floodplains, we look at the streams, the general layout, the topography of the land. And then we look at where the development is occurring and where it potentially will occur, where the pressures are, and generally what the land use is within the county. From that perspective, we are fairly fortunate, I guess you could say, in that vast areas of the county are not impervious cover, and most of the development is within the triangle formed by Altoona, Hollidaysburg, and Duncansville, and the adjoining townships. There is some development pressure going along I-99. That's why it was put in to help spur some economic growth. So we do have development pressure there, and that is noted. We hop the mountain and go to the eastern part of the county over in the Cove in Sinking Valley. The pressure there is agricultural. Agriculture does not produce the impervious cover that can cause the stormwater runoff in quantity. However, agriculture can produce quality issues with the water, and that needs to be looked at as well. Nitrates and some sediment, if the fields aren't treated right, can get into the water. So those are things that are looked at, particularly with the MS4 communities. They had phosphates, nitrates, and sediment that they need to be watching out for to help the health of the Chesapeake Bay. But it's not only the bay we're helping, it's our own waters, our own waterways that we help out with this. So those are the things that come together in that general county description. It gives them an idea of what we're looking at. I took section 3 and really expounded on our integration with this plan, with the hazard mitigation plan, and something called the CAP plan, which is a 4-county effort being coordinated by Southern Alleghenies, which is basically an action plan to help us with the Chesapeake Bay issues. So we're integrating this plan with those two in particular. As we go into phase 2, the CAP plan especially will be playing into that in a more heavy way. They have a few projects listed within there that will overlap very nicely with a phase 2 plan. And then we get into the focus areas and the scope. And the focus areas are where we want to prioritize what we're doing, and then the scope is the actual project scope. Anybody that's written an RFP knows what a scope of work is. I'll scroll down here. So through the outreach, which we piggyback with the the hazard mitigation plan outreach, we have a list of projects and comments that were received from municipalities and the public. Some of these are verbatim out of the draft hazard mitigation plan. Some are verbatim out of that CAP plan I was referring to, and some are just simply comments we've received as part of the overall comment process. You'll notice number 1, anybody who knows anything about sewer and infrastructure costs knows that's not a small undertaking. The comment, I believe, came from a gentleman in the city who is concerned. He does not work for the city or the authority, but is concerned that something's going to come down from the feds and we're going to be choking on a very large project in a very short amount of time. So he was suggesting maybe we find a way to do this bit by bit and do it incrementally. I'm not going through all of these, but I just did want to point that one out, that that is a very large ask, and it'll probably be a somewhat significant portion of the phase 2 plan. The number 2 is already being talked about by some of our localities to assign stormwater management responsibilities to their sewer authorities or water and sewer authorities in some cases, just because of the similar structure of the way things work. So, and then we go into very specific areas and some other very general areas. ideas like developing a stormwater, or not a watershed management plan, which is similar, but it actually focuses on all aspects of the watershed, not just the stormwater aspect. Source water planning, where we protect source water, whether it's the land that's up on the Allegheny front, or it may be aquifers that are under the farmland in Marston's Cove. So things that look like that. Those are the types of things that are on here, as well as hard projects like, hey, we've got 2 bridges in Tyrone that have pylons in the middle of the river that we're not using. Why don't we take those bridges out, get the pylons out of the river, and help the flooding
Yeah,
situation?
well, I was gonna, there's another issue there, but those two are, there is one house up in Plummer's Hollow up that
Yeah.
they have to find a road for.
Yeah.
But the other issue has been, is a county, I don't know if it's a county bridge or what, the one on Pennsylvania Avenue was basically, Pennsylvania Avenue was basically over Little Juniata, was fundamentally ill-conceived when it was built.
Most of our bridges were.
Well, this one was built, it had been originally, it was a steel girder bridge with an open framework under it. And so when the water came up, it may have flowed through the grid work, but it didn't take the bridge out or do any damage to the bridge. But when the county decided to replace it, they replaced it with a concrete girder bridge that extended down into the floodway of the river. So now when the river comes up high enough, it actually acts like a dam and backs the river up into that low section of Tyrone, which is downtown and parts of Washington Avenue and in that neighborhood. So it backs, it's basically, that's when we had floods in '72, there was water in the neighborhood, and I lived in that neighborhood, there was water in there. But there was actually more water in 2003 when they had the 2 hurricanes come through in the neighborhood because of that bridge.
Well, and I recall both of those 2 floods, and I don't remember what was going on in Tyrone because I was living in Hollidaysburg and I was paying
But
attention.
what had happened was, if you looked at the stream flows for 72, which is the stream gauge that records that's the one down at Spruce Creek. There was more water in 72 and less water in that neighborhood than there was in 2003, which was the 2 back-to-back hurricanes.
Well,
So, and it's basically because of the way that bridge was designed. It's a concrete bridge that extends down into the channel, the river channel.
There was a period there, I remember that getting discussed at I think it was a planning partners meeting, about they realized in the early 2000s what they were doing. They've since changed their design. How they do
well,
those
and
bridges.
PennDOT tells us,
They-
and
they
the
design
engineers
it for
tell
it,
us what we
yeah.
have to do, so
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
follow
there's
what
PennDOT
they
designs the bridges.
But it does back up. Now
Yeah.
they have alleviated some of that by putting some backflow preventers on the storm drains that come out of that neighborhood. But it still has backed up enough that it comes over that wall. There's a retaining wall there. It comes up over that retaining wall and floods that neighborhood.
Dave, I have a question.
Yeah.
The first 3 letters, develop a plan. Who, how, when, where, at what cost?
That's right.
So that's part of what we look at phase 2. What's involved with that?
And it's big money.
Well, in putting a plan to get, somebody's gonna pay for that.
And I don't know who's going to do that yet.
It's a very aggressive program and needed, but
Right.
cost is huge.
The request from DEP for phase 1 is go out, get the comments, and give us the comments, and then we'll put them in phase 2. The Watershed Advisory Committee will come in, or the Water Planning Advisory Committee is what they call it, WPAC, will come in, look at these, see which ones are or are not feasible, and then prioritize accordingly.
So do they, is this, once this is approved, is that something that they, whoever they is, look at in the next year? Is it the next 5
Over
years?
the next, I think it's a 4-year window.
So it's 4 years
I
where they're
believe.
only looking at whether they even like the plan. So none of the work that's listed on here would even be addressed for at least 5.
It could be if, say, I'm just going to pick one here. say number 7, just, maybe I should pick that one, but number 7.
Oh, there's a good question.
Yeah, just,
We'll talk about that in a minute.
yeah, just say something were to come up next year that's going to move that forward suddenly. There's no reason it has to wait for this plan.
Yeah, some of those can be done.
Yeah, some of those could be done if extra funding comes up or somebody else gets the gumption to do it. So yeah, it's not like we're putting all this on hold for 4 years so we can go study something. These are input ideas we've gotten from the various elected officials, municipal engineers and municipal officials, and the general public as we've done outreach over the last, I think it was the last 2 cycles actually. We were anticipating that this was going to come up, so as we were doing the hazard mitigation plan, I had a ulterior motive in getting some stormwater input as well, so we could just put it all together at once instead of running it twice, because hazard mitigation in Blair County really tends to focus a lot on flooding.
Oh, yeah.
And flooding, when we went through hazard mitigation 5 years ago, FEMA and FEMA both were like, your flooding issue is not just natural, it's also man-made, it's a stormwater problem. And that's why in our current hazard mitigation plan, the one that's going to expire here, we put a project in there to do exactly what we're doing now with the stormwater management plan, to try to get the funding to get one and get it moving forward, focused on not only just the regular stormwater issue, but see if we can actually go further with it and address some of the flooding problems that have been made because of our legacy mistakes, because we just didn't know any better back when we paved the swamp in the south end of Altoona. How do we mitigate that now? Can we mitigate that now? That's the kind of thing that needs to be studied. In fact, you'll see something in here. One of the comments we got back in was actually to go in and tear down the old Kmart building and return it to swamp to help the headwaters. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not. But it is a comment that was received, so it's put in here. I'm sure the WPACs will look at that and say that's not really feasible. That land is now too valuable for somebody to go in and do something like that. But it's something that has to be in there because it's input that we've received.
So Dave, one of the items about like separating the stormwater system, is that already like regulated by or covered by the Chesapeake Bay infiltration reduction plan, or can you explain what
Some
that
of it is, some of it's not.
is? Some of those items,
I mean,
what teeth?
If the people related to Chesapeake Bay could and fix it, they would.
Oh,
And I think there are some people that don't realize the extent, both in terms of geographic extent and financial extent, that the problem is, especially in the upper reaches of the watershed. I forget what the number was. You remember, Nick, the number Altoona was given about 20 years ago to completely separate the CSOs.
so like what regulations were pushing Hollidaysburg to separate our stormwater from sewer systems? Like, is that just?
That comes from the EP and EPA.
That comes from DEP, so is this?
And plus, it's just really, it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
it wasn't like any regulation came down, we did it.
I don't think anybody came down on it with a hammer, but it may have happened and I wasn't aware of it.
Well, and the cost of the treatment
Yeah.
of all of that water coming through the, wastewater, that was so
Yeah.
expensive, that also contributed to that.
So there was economical.
Yeah, there's economic reasons for doing it.
Sewage treatment.
And it's a matter of when the cost of replacing, or not replacing, but separating the system versus the cost of treating all the stormwater doesn't really need to be treated. It's going through the system. And if it rains too hard, when those sewers fill up, you got the sanitary in there and the storm in there. When they fill up, there is an overflow on the plant. It'll just flow right into the stream. And it's not just the stormwater that's going into the stream.
And Altoona's dealt with this already, right, with their holding tanks and things like that?
Yeah,
They-
even their system's been
Altoona's still
overwhelmed.
trying to deal with
Yeah.
it. It's quite extensive because they have, quite a few combination sewers,
Mhm.
and that's gonna be tremendous. Because not only are you gonna have to do the separation, but you're gonna have to probably remove a lot of structure because there's structures built over those sewer systems. I mean, it's gonna be massive. But the thing with Altoona was they've known about this coming down the pipe for quite a few years.
So is it an economical issue with them for their sewage treatment plants now? Is it becoming?
Well, the sewage plants now are constantly being updated. There's a lot of money being put in. The main problem is, like Dave said, during flood everything, the
So
district
long.
sewers can't handle it, and there's an overflow, and it dumps it all into the little Juniata. So you got raw sewage going into the stream, which, you know, DEP and the EPA go crazy with.
Then you have any power to stop the DEP?
Well, they just got here about, what was it, about 5 years ago? They got nailed out in Pleasant Valley, and they had to end up putting that whole new system in because they kept flooding on Pleasant Valley. They're about, what was that, about 15th, 14th Street? Kept backing
Yeah,
up.
somewhere over there.
So they ended up having to put in that very expensive sewer system.
So this plan will help to, this is not gonna alleviate those kind of things, DEP can still come
It'll start
out.
to prioritize our stormwater needs. And then the other thing this plan will do, and we'll be getting into that with the scope of work, there's three basic prongs to this. It'll prioritize our project needs. That's number one. Number two, it will develop a new model ordinance, which all our municipalities have to adopt, relative to stormwater. Our current model ordinance is based on knowledge and technology from the 1980s and 1990s. We've come a long way since then. A lot of our newer technologies relative to stormwater are very natural looking and very low maintenance. Whereas you go back to the 90s, everything was, hey, dig a pit and put pipes in, and you have to go in every so often and clean it all out, which doesn't happen because nobody wants to crawl down there to do that, and it's expensive and all like that, so that eventually the systems fail because of lack of maintenance. So they've come forward with that, and we do things like rain gardens and swales and these natural looking depressions that are actually stormwater ponds and things like that. I tell the story, I may have already said it here, that my son was playing baseball down with some friends down east, and near I think it's the Berks Lebanon line down there, and I'm sitting on the embankment overlooking this ball field, and behind the backstop, after a couple of people moved, it looks like a head wall for a pipe outlet. I started looking around, and I'm like, nudged the man next to me and said, when it rains, does this go underwater? Oh, real quick. This is a detention pond. And he goes, oh yeah, it's a detention pond. I said, it's a baseball field, and it's a detention pond. He says, you're not gonna play baseball in the rain. You have a point. And that's what they did. All they have to do to clean that out, basically, is go down there with a reamer to ream that pipe out about once every 2 or 3 years, he said. They mow it, they play baseball on it, and he's right. You're not gonna play baseball when it's raining, or a couple hours after it rains, it's just too wet, it's too slippery, so you're not gonna be out there anyway. So they doubled it up and made double use of the land that was there. And it's a huge, I mean, you got a whole baseball field, a huge area that they use. But those are some of the treatments that have come forward in the last, well, it's a little better than a quarter century now, whether I will admit it or not. But that, you know, those types of things now we can integrate into our new planning practices, and some of our more progressive and more proactive municipalities in terms of development, simply because they're getting some of the more modern concepts who are already starting down that road with some of these treatments. It's just a matter of getting them into a model ordinance so it can be sort of recognized. And then the third element is to do some modeling on some of our watersheds, so we understand where the water's coming from, how it gets to where it's going, what we might be able to do, and all the impacts that it has as it falls from the sky. So stormwater is basically anything between the cloud and the groundwater, and anything that impacts it. So scope of work, this goes on and on and on. It's actually a template that DEP wants us to drop in here. I just want to read the 3 major work elements are administration, which is basically all the background work that nobody really wants to care about, the unglamorous stuff. The plan preparation, and then the participation. So those are the 3 things they're looking at us to do. If you want, we can really get into the 12 pages of nitty-gritty detail. I wasn't planning on doing that this morning. But I just wanted, there is a scope of work that is here for us to be going through. A lot of mapping work and a lot of going out in the field and seeing what is actually there.
What are your anticipated staff costs or staff numbers?
This is going to have to be engineered. So we'll take care of the administration in-house. There's gonna be a little bit of leaning, and Conservation's aware, there's gonna be a little bit of leaning on them for some of the data, and there's gonna be a little bit of leaning on, probably some county GIS for some of the mapping data. But most of this is gonna have to be contracted out to an engineer. I can't do the modeling. We just don't have the
That's why I was
capability.
asking.
And, you know, you look at some of those projects that are on there, they are engineering projects, so we're gonna have to go that way with it.
Well, you'll have a continuous monitoring and administrative function.
Mhm. So these are our costs, and you can see my formatting's already starting to deteriorate here. So these are the low, the high, and then the projected costs. I called around to a number of firms and other counterparts like me to see where the costs were running, and roughly we have lows and highs for each of the major tasks that DEP expects us for. I put in as a contingency cost, and then you see the totals. So we are going to go to DEP saying we have a project cost of $240,000 and see what they come back to us with. So that's basically the document in a nutshell. I simply need a vote to send it to DEP at this point so we can see where we go with phase 2.
So what we're looking at is a motion to forward the appropriate grant application information to DEP.
Yeah, phase 1 plan.
Phase 1 plan. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carried. Moving right ahead.
Sorry, I lost.
Yes.
It might be.
Are you staying there, Dave, or are you coming back?
I'll come back there.
Okay, because I guess we got some administrative items. The biggest one, the announcement, is with sadness, we announced that Sherry is leaving us. And again, I guess I can castigate Amy for hiring her.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I didn't castigate you for hiring her.
Hey, we know talent. when we
I know you
it.
see the talent. That's been our problem. We got talent, we lose it. That seems to be the name of the game, but I don't know. We've run into that with not only with funding projects. You get projects and the money disappears because it seems like it's attractive for somebody else to take it over and run it, namely the county, who will remain anonymous. And the other thing is now we're seeing it with we've had this happen. We can't compete competitively with salary on stuff, so we lose staff, and that's
Well, yeah, everybody's facing
everybody's
that.
on that. I have some information for Dave. I had talking to my daughter. I guess there's somebody. I hadn't heard of this. There's some outfit called Spotlight PA. You heard?
Oh, yeah.
You've heard of them?
Oh, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
doing-
That's a big
There,
public
there's,
entity.
my daughter told me that there's one of their reporters is working on a story that it's addressing the problems that small counties, municipalities, school districts, and authorities are having in hiring and retaining staff. And she was trying to get me a name of who the point of contact
That'll be
was.
interesting to see.
Yeah, that was what I said, because they said they were looking for people to talk, and of course I would volunteer Dave. If you want to on that, you know,
Oh, I
but
would
it is.
volunteer.
And you know, we'll volunteer the county, because we're all in the same boat. When it comes to being the 5th or 6th class counties
Fifth, yeah.
and smaller municipalities, of being able to hire and retain staff. And it seems like for us, particularly planning, the board is spending a lot of time trying to hire, that we'd rather spend doing planning and doing other things rather than trying to make staff. So that's something we're.
The good news is we have, as of Monday, 5 applicants. I don't know if any came in yesterday.
7 total as of yesterday.
Seven now, okay.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Of
And
the
that's just on LinkedIn. So I
of
mean,
the original 5, there were 2 that at least had some promise.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
well, if
And
you
one
do
of
it,
those 2 actually has a local address listed, so.
In our experience, that's been the problem, is that we're competing with the not only the Philadelphias and the Pittsburghs and the Harrisburgs, but also the the Denvers and the other western municipalities and Washington's and DC, those larger municipalities where where the salary ranges are higher.
Oh, yeah.
We're hiring for that for that's our competition for hiring staff.
Fortunately.
Not only that, but also then the housing situation, trying to find appropriate housing falls into that. So we're working at it, but it hasn't been easy so far.
And Washington DC is close enough that a lot of those government people we are within the radius that they can work remotely.
Yeah,
So if those people with those higher salaries are looking to move out into areas like this, they don't want jobs here, but they'll live here because it's a nice place to live, but they'll make bigger bucks because they actually work in DC and they might have to drive in once or twice.
Bedford County is experiencing a lot of that.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're
And we're gonna get spillover eventually. I mean,
Yeah, I have some friends that basically they're work for NAVC, and their offices and their offices are at that state, but they spend a significant amount of time driving to Washington D.C. and being in the Washington D.C. area.
Bill, before I forget, when that article comes out from Spotlight, if you find it or
Well,
you're gonna try to.
I got an email from my daughter. She was trying to find me a name. She couldn't remember a name, a point of contact for who was doing that. So I'm trying to get that.
No problem. I just mean when it's published, would you
Right.
forward it to the team?
Well, if I see it, I will, but I don't always see that stuff.
No, of course.
I rely on her because she's in the Harrisburg area and has her finger on the
Yeah.
on a little
Yeah,
more
if
on
it
the
comes up, no
pulse than I do. She even gave me. I got a name for Dave on a point of contact that may address our insurance issues. So I'm going to give him that. So.
Well, I'd like to commend Sherry for all the hard work she's
Oh,
done.
yeah.
She's got
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything she's done. I hate to lose her.
She'll be sadly missed.
I'm being
Thank
just a little, not humorous, but I'm trying to lighten it up with the county because I know that they have the same issues we have, and I can't fault them for recognizing quality employees.
Right.
And Sherry is definitely that. So.
Thank you.
So. Okay, then, if nobody has,
I have another announcement.
you're leaving now.
No.
Who else is leaving?
Actually, I am leaving. I'm taking the next week and a half off.
Okay.
I'm coming back.
You're coming back. Okay.
No, just so you are aware, I've been invited to sit on a panel the afternoon of October 2nd. There's a local, it's actually, the invitees are regional, but it's going to be held here in Altoona for a housing forum, housing roundtable, discuss the different issues. So that'll be October 2nd in the afternoon. And also, the registration for the state planning conference is open. And nobody's ever took us up on this, but we've always had 2 slots in the budget for any board members that would be interested. So let us know. I forget when that closes. It's a couple weeks in, but if somebody would be interested. That is the week of Columbus Day.
Tell them where it is, tell them where it is.
It's in Erie.
It's on the waterfront.
It's right
At the
on
base.
water.
Come hang out with us.
Here.
Learn about planning stuff. It'll be great.
At the Bayfront. the
All right,
sheds in
moving,
Bayfront. In Erie.
if there are no other comments.
It's gorgeous.
Amy, it's your turn.
Thank you. It's interesting, though, a lot of the things that you were talking about, Dave, in the plan, kind of have an impact on some of the things that we're working on. And you guys are probably aware of this. You know we've been looking for land for the prison. I'll tell you what, I did not realize that Blair County had so many areas that there's toxic waste that we can't then develop. So we've had to pass up a couple places that we thought might be good, but we have a couple more we're looking at. Right now we're in the phase where we're just trying to see if our footprint will fit, if we have problems with too much land that needs to be moved or anything like that. So that project is moving forward, and we're hoping to get an appropriate property and get that project moving along, because the prison itself, the existing prison it just gets worse and worse every day. The cost to maintain it is just unbelievable. And we have plans, if we're able to find land, build the prison that we want with the juvenile facility and everything, we should be able to rent out space to other counties that don't have juvenile facilities. They're kind of in the situation we're in now, and they're like, when are you going to get this built? Because they will rent spots from us, which hopefully will help us pay off the whole cost of the prison quicker. So that's how that project's coming. Interestingly, on your plan, you talked about White Bridge. Well, White Bridge is kind of a part of the trails discussion that we've been having, and we were down there with our engineer looking at the bridge, and obviously it's not going to be open for cars or vehicles, but it certainly could be a part of the trail system and could be open for pedestrians and bicycles. So the trail system that we're looking at, hooking onto these different places and really working with Conservation District and whoever we have to in order to rebuild the banks, which I know was part of the stormwater program as well. Clearing obstructions and restoring the banks will help with the whole system. That's why I was asking you, how soon are we going to do all these things? And I know the answer, not soon enough, huh?
Yes, it is.
And I'm aware of the problems along there. My property lies along a long portion of the river, so I see what it does, and I see what building a trail system would do to help us to alleviate some of those flooding problems. So the commissioners have plans going forward that would be certainly in line with a lot of the things that you're talking about. And, we're just working now on creating an authority that would encompass not just the trails but parks and recreation as well, so that all of these things can be brought together and you have a group that is all pulling in one direction instead of various groups with different things that aren't necessarily working together. So we want these to all be able to work together, all these projects, for the good of everybody as a whole. So that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Oh, now it's the board members. Anybody in the board got anything to say at this point?
When are you going to advertise to replace her?
We already have it.
We're,
It started this weekend, right? With
Yeah.
LinkedIn?
But the advertisements have been out for 3 weeks now.
Oh,
Well, I asked 3 weeks ago. They didn't get posted for a week, but yeah.
unfortunately, that seems to be an ongoing option.
She doesn't know we're going to tie her down to her desk and not let her leave.
Yeah.
I left yesterday.
Yeah, that's been it's.
I know.
They
Thank
say-
you.
Says must wear leg irons.
That's been it's been an issue right along with, not just with Sherry leaving, but Mackenzie did and now it's
Now,
back.
she saw the light and returned.
She
Yes.
saw the light in the back. But again, it's been an issue. And you can't fault employees or people for bettering themselves, so it's
Oh, right.
off you go.
And if
But
you
it's-
look at Sherry's history, where she started and how
How
she
she's
worked
done,
through, she's perfect.
It's a logical step for her, no
Yes.
question about that. It's just
Thank you.
we seem like we get decent people, and then they tend to, because they are decent and good employees.
Well,
They
they're not
move
will
on.
positions.
And that's
They're not will
so we're
positions.
in this continual, always, and we're always feeling, like right
As soon as
now,
we got a
I
new
felt,
city manager,
one, I think
we
we're
can
always
wait
a little
till
bit
we
short-staffed in what we'd like to do, and we don't always have all the money to pay for them. But we're always a little short-staffed of where we'd like to be, because I think that, where it bothers me is that we accept things from local municipalities who are essentially contributing. And then we can't always respond in a timely fashion, or in the order that, in the time I think we should, as far as getting the work done. And that can be self-defeating in that, okay, then if you don't respond to municipalities and our members in a timely fashion, they start to question why they have you. And so that's always been an issue with me, is that I think when we take a job, we need to try and get it done in a timely fashion. If we lose a bunch of employees in the process, it just drags that whole process out. And a prime example for us has been we've owed Williamsburg Borough and Catherine Township a comprehensive plan now, and it's way overdue as far as being delivered. And it's simply because things come up that have higher priorities and we don't have the additional staff to toss at it. And so that's the kind of thing I've been trying to avoid. And if we're going to restructure how we charge people for being members and do that, and I think what I think we need to do, we need to have is we need to be providing a service, and we need to provide it in a timely fashion that everybody can use. And so it's one I felt we could sure staff right along. We can't always do anything about that because we don't want to have the money to fund it. But at the same time, you can't promise people to do things and then not deliver. That's my soapbox. I guess the next day, last time, questions from the media. Walt, you got anything?
Yeah, Dave, I just want to clarify one thing. You say you have already received some applicants for Sherry's position. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'm pleasantly surprised because that has not always been the case where we haven't been getting applications. We've put out applications and got, or requests for applications and gotten no response. So
We guess people are just throwing them at the wall to see what sticks.
at least we're seeing
Very
something.
worse.
All right, if there are no further questions, we got a list of meetings.
There is one missing that I think is important. There's going to be a commissioner forum, presentation in September with all three of you for breakfast through the chamber. And it's not on there, so just wanted to give you a plug. It's in September. I think
September 12th.
Yep, the 12th.
It's yes, number 12
Right in
for
there.
the Breakfast Club. And I think
I think it's at the casino.
It is.
yeah, it's in the place where they always have it, upstairs in the casino. I know that they get a lot of reservations for this particular thing.
We're trying to get there, so I think the plan is one of us should go or multiple. So be there to support.
All right, if there are no further items, I will entertain a motion. And I'll note that when our next meeting is September 26th. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? We're out of here. Thank you.
Who seconded?
Do I need?